The Future Forged in Our Palms by nolov, louscr. Chapter 5. If you're attacking my school and I'm panicking, then who's saving our friendship? Mightdoriya, 1751. I know you're not replying because it was UA and exams, but I thought I should tell you I didn't make it anyways, so you don't have to keep ignoring me. Even with the spontaneously developed quirk, I didn't get a single point in the practical exam. Plus, I shattered every bone in my arms and legs in the last few minutes, so that was great. Izuku sighs, sprawled across his bed, ignoring how his hair still dripped on his sheets from his shower. He flexes his hands, watching them move and comparing it to how terrible they looked after punching the 0-pointer. His phone pings from where he dropped it a few inches from his left hand. Tomura 4 FNG, 1757. What the fuck? What do you mean you shattered every bone in your arms and legs? How the fuck did you randomly get a quirk? I only ignored you for a week. How the fuck? Mightdoriya, 1758. Hell if I know. And the bones were from punching a robot bigger than any of the buildings in the testing area to death. I came out of the encounter only a little more functional than it. Tomura 4 FNG, 1759. Legally, I am now obligated to never leave you without supervision again. He tries to damp down his laughter, but Izuku can't help it. He'd missed Tomura. Even though the disappointment and heartbreak of failing so spectacularly in the practical exam, getting to message his friend again only brings relief. Tomura 4 FNG, 1759. I hate the idea of you going to UA, but I'm sorry you didn't do well in the exam. I know it was your dream. Mightdoriya, 1801. Thanks, Tomura. It's just disappointing. I trained really hard and prepared to take the test without a quirk, and even with one I still couldn't get any villain points. Tomura 4 FNG, 1802. I mean, most of those idiot brats have probably had their quirk for 10 years, and you only had yours for a few days. It'd throw anyone off. Anyways, fuck yours besides you and maybe the Wild Wild Pussycats. Have you been able to get a hold of his set room? Mightdoriya, 1803. Nah, I've been too busy studying and training. Tell me about it? Izuku stares at the idling screen of the projector, frozen on its final frame of All Might's face. The hope that had been locked away right after the entrance exam has burst free violently. He feels so much, the skittering of excitement, the ache of relief, the bubble of joy choking him, swelling out from his chest and up his throat. He's going to UA. He's going to be a hero. Mightdoriya, 1417. Incoming call. Tomura 4 FNG, 1418. Call accepted. You're lucky I was about to message you, player 2, Tomura mutters as a greeting, the noise of him moving around just audible. Izuku can't stop smiling, can feel the expression in every inch of himself. Can I ask you a favor? He asks Tomura, because Tomura is his best friend. Through his headphones, he can hear Tomura's footsteps stop. It takes him a moment to reply. Sure thing, Izuku. Tomura's voice sounds a little worried, and if Izuku had any more brain power to process emotions with, he'd feel a little bad. Can you pretend that you don't hate heroes as much for 2 minutes? You don't have to pretend to love them or anything, but... Izuku takes a deep breath. I just want someone to be happy about this with. Just for a moment, without anything to make it something not to be proud of. And Izuku knows it's wrong of him to ask for Tomura to pretend the opposite of something that he has so much conviction about, but he wants to be happy. Not to worry about how broken society is, to be overwhelmed that he succeeded at something he thought he'd never had a chance at for so long. It takes him a few moments after he finishes asking to realize that his cheeks are already wet with tears. There's a huff across the line. I can do 1 minute, Tomura says, and Izuku can tell that only some of the reluctance is genuine. The tears are pouring now, and he isn't sure how he still has a grip on his breathing. I made it, Izuku whispers, still barely able to believe it. I'm in UA's hero course. Before Tomura can say anything, he keeps talking, unable to hold it back. I didn't get any villain points, but they gave me 60 rescue points for helping a girl about to be crushed by the 0-pointer. Izuku can't help trailing into a whisper again. I actually made it, Tomura. His friend doesn't speak for a moment. Is that the robot you pureed your arms and legs punching? Izuku rolls his eyes. It's almost like I only punched the one robot. Wow! He drops his phone on his bed and flops down after it, rolling to stare at the ceiling. He's still crying, but not as hard, the tears slowing down. They'll start up again soon, though, when he tells his mom. For now, though, Izuku feels calm. I'm proud of you, Izuku, Tomura says, and it makes Izuku pause. His voice sounded so genuine saying it, honest and full of conviction, and Izuku's heart feels like it's swelling and breaking all at once. It almost sounds like Tomura isn't pretending. You'll be an amazing hero one day. Middle school ends without notability. Kachan isn't subdued, but he also isn't violent, and his friends follow suit. Izuku graduates with just above average grades, steadily maintained and balanced to gain him access to schools like UA without drawing the ire of his teachers or peers. There is no fanfare beyond sitting with his mother at their dinner table, her happy tears slowing for the first time that day as they eat, and a message from Tomura afterwards, once Izuku is sat at his desk and scrawling down notes from a new video of gang aura posted earlier that day. Tomura 4th NG, 1802. Congrats on surviving hell. On to the next 3 levels, Izuku. Here's hoping you get to rub your success on all those assholes from your school's faces soon enough. And how much better you are in the faces of all your classmates at UA. Izuku slips his pen away and smiles. The past few weeks after the letter came, and Tomura hasn't ranted about his hatred for heroes, but they have talked about it. About the responsibility that comes to the power and notoriety high-ranking heroes get. The need for actual oversight and change within the system. It had been a series of long conversations, drawn out and analytical, and pointedly skipping over All Might because Izuku knows mentions of the hero get under Tomura's skin in the worst possible way. Eventually, they'd agreed that a lot was wrong, but at least some could be fixed, and Izuku had promised to try and enforce change, and drag his classmates into it with him if they actually ended up liking him. None of the conversations changed Tomura's pointed bitterness about heroes, though. It made it sort of comforting to know he'd always have a friend in Tomura, eyes so unwaveringly critical of the way hero society worked, to keep him from falling away from the reason he'd chosen to be a hero in the first place, away from helping people. Mightdoriya, 1803. I just hope my classmates don't hate me, honestly. And the teachers. And then I stop breaking my bones. Are we sure it was junior high that was hell? Are we sure it's not going to be high school? Tomura 4th NG, 1805. Positive. You'll be surrounded by do-gooders like you the whole school day. Guarantee you make at least 2 new friends on the first day. Mightdoriya, 1806. 2 friends in one go? After making only 1 in 10 years? Sounds fake. Tomura 4th NG, 1807. You're going to be the only pint-sized idiot there worth anything, and people will realize. Mightdoriya, 1807. I want to say thank you for the compliment, but you called me pint-sized. Also, this is sappy, but I graduated, so I'm entitled to sappiness. Thanks for being such a great friend, player 2. Smiley face. I don't know how I would have made it through the last 3 years without you. You're the best friend I've ever had. Izuku looks back to his notes. It'll take Tomura a little time to reply. He still has trouble being called a friend, in a similar way to how Izuku has trouble using the title. It's enough to know that Tomura has seen his message. The older teen states his friendship in other ways, so obvious after seeing them for years. Eventually, a notification comes in. Tomura 4th NG, 1813. Oh, so I'm player 2, huh? The great doors to the unforeseen simulation joint finish swinging open, and Izuku feels like he's going to vibrate out of his own skin. He isn't sure how none of his classmates have noticed his barely restrained amazement at everything going on. Beside him, Uraraka bounces on the balls of her feet, smiling wide and genuine. She grabs his arm, one pinky lifted, and shakes it a little, dramatically putting her whole body behind it. We're here, Deku-kun, we're here! Her excitement trails off sharply when she catches sight of the hero waiting for them. The force behind her, shaking his arm, grows even stronger. That's 13! She yells to him. Her energy feeds into his, and soon enough they're frantically whispering back and forth about the rescue hero. It feels good to talk about heroes like this with someone for the first time in longer than Izuku can remember. They both trail off to listen when 13 begins to tell the class more about the USJ and how and why they use the destructive power of their quirk to save people from natural disasters. And there is no warning when it happens, nothing to alert them or send them running for safety. There is only the faintest of odd smells in the air, the sound of feet on concrete, and then innumerable villains waiting for them in the USJ's central plaza. Time seems to stretch around them as the field trip falls apart. Everything feels as though it plays out in slow-mo. Aizawa leaps into the fray of villains. 13 is blocked by Kachan and Kirishima, and the whole class is scattered. In the back of his head, as Izuku plummets toward the water, something in him underneath the fear and panic itches with familiarity. It feels like he knows the voice of the mist villain, just in the edges of his mind. Alongside it is a man covered in hands. The way he talks, from cadence and wording to the rasping sound of his voice, clicks against Izuku's mind, just off from fitting. He hits the water and forgets to dwell on it, too distracted by the converging water villains. It pops back up again after, once they're off the ship and riding high on success, watching just in case Aizawa needs them, just in case they need to be heroes just a little too early again. The villain, covered in hands, wraps all 5 fingers around Aizawa's elbow and holds him there. His countdown and commentary just audible where Izuku, Tsuyu, and Mineta are hiding. Alarm spikes down Izuku's spine when he realizes what's happening seconds before Aizawa blinks. The sleeve and skin and muscle begin to crumble away, floating on the air like dust. More than the sight, the realization makes Izuku sick, unable to process anything beyond 2 familiar voices and a quirk that disintegrates whatever its user touches. He knows, but something in his heart won't actually let him know. Izuku's already crying when the first crack of Aizawa's bones, shattered in the fist of the gnome who crouched above him, reaches him. His hands rise to grip his hair, and he barely keeps himself from tugging it. All he can feel is panic and denial, all of it wrapping tight bands over his lungs until he can't breathe. If he weren't already crouched down, nearly submerged in the water beside his classmates, he would have collapsed. There's a thought as Aizawa's face is slammed into the concrete, leaving a dent, dust rising from it. Izuku can see the blood, can barely breathe, air heavy in his lungs as he watches. Everything is wrong. And then it only gets worse, because the man made of mist, no, Izuku knows now, it's Kurogiri, the man who had saved his best friend when Izuku couldn't, greets the main villain, still covered in severed hands, eyes crazed and still watching Izuku's teacher get slowly crushed with something like glee, with a soft, Tomura Shigaraki. Izuku can't really hear beyond the fact that he knows people near him and far from him are talking. He stands and starts sobbing at some point. He thinks he's shaking. Nothing feels real enough to check it against, though. Vision too blurry and air rushing shallowly in and out of his steel-bound lungs as he hyperventilates. When he starts walking, Izuku stumbles, water splashing up around him as he stares ahead. Tomura, who he hasn't spoken to in 3 days beyond quick, unresponded to have a good day messages, looks somehow like a nightmare, and Izuku's chest burns. Izuku takes another step, and another, until he's at the water's edge, alone. He feels empty. All he can hear is the scratching, sharp nails against the dry neck, so familiar. All he can see is red, pooling beneath Aizawa and burning in Tomura's eyes and dripping down his neck and fingers. Tomura? Izuku asks, because he's terrified, and that's his best friend, even if he wants to run away from him right now, even if he's the one Izuku is terrified of. His voice cracks as he speaks, shatters. He tries to open his mouth to ask what's happening, why, but nothing happens. Nothing comes out, blocked by the sobs stuck in his throat. Izuku doesn't know what to do. He can still see Aizawa, crumpled beneath the gnome's hand. He can see Tomura's eyes widen behind the severed hands, the same red as Aizawa's blood. His nails stop scraping across his neck. Everything is so still, like a painting, the image of tragedy captured in a moment. Tomura stumbles a step back, bumping just slightly into Kurogiri, and Izuku can see how his mouth opens, like he wants to speak too, and can't find the words. From a few yards away, Aizawa groans and he shifts to breathe, the sound pained and wet. It clears the fog from Izuku's mind in one fell swoop, caring about how this now might get his teacher killed. He looks at Tomura for one moment more, just staring, unable to find anything to say, and then he's running, straight at the Nomu and Aizawa, trusting that as much as he's terrified of Tomura right now, his best friend can't kill him. Sliding to a stop on the concrete, tears through the skin of Izuku's knees. He raises his hand to check over Aizawa, frantic and unsure, and as soon as he gets within 10 centimeters of the Nomu, it's gone. Izuku doesn't look for where it went, too busy trying to stop the blood pouring from his teacher's arms and face. He hears a portal behind him close, and he hopes it took Tomura with it. Beneath his fingers, Aizawa's pulse is steady but even. Tsuyu and Mineta don't ask him any questions afterwards. His statement to the police, briefly mentioning that he recognized Tomura as an estranged friend, is close enough to the truth to not feel like a lie. It doesn't alleviate the sick feeling in his gut, nor does it get rid of the squinted, calculating gaze of his nearly unconscious teacher, so he isn't really sure why he doesn't tell the truth. Izuku also isn't sure how Aizawa is still aware enough to spot him and remember that Izuku knew the villain's name. He's also surprised that the underground hero hasn't already been dragged away in an ambulance after 13. Turning away, he heads towards the bus, where his classmates, who have already given a statement, have gathered. Once he arrives, Uraraka gives him a hug, tight and overwhelming. He can feel the vibrations of a flood of notifications buzzing away on his phone, and, ducking his head as he tries and fails not to cry again, Izuku pointedly ignores them. Just as he ignores the bite in his throat and how he still feels like there are bands around his lungs. Just as how he ignores how his chest feels empty, lonely. Izuku only lets himself hear the loud, angry sound from Kachan talking to Kirishima, and Ida's stiff formalities to the police officer taking his statement. Only feels the grounding weight of Ochako's hug. He can think about Tomura later, when he knows Aizawa will live and his classmates will be okay,